name's Tim Walter. I'm a house healer and an alternative life coach. Welcome to this week's edition of Monday Moments, which is the program early in the week where I try to answer your questions. And in this program today, we're going to be talking a little bit about the spirit guides, about the spirit world, and about guides in particular and how we relate to them and what are they. Now, some of you will be instantly reaching for the unsubscribe, some of you might be vaguely interested, and some of you may think, yes, I'm really behind that. But wherever you sit on those three, I think you might be interested by what we cover next. So, spirit world, the world of spirit. Before we go into that, don't forget, please click on the thumbs up or thumbs down. Subscribe to the channel if you are interested in what we're talking about. Click on the grey bell icon that will appear so that you get notified of every time I upload a video, which I'm trying to make twice weekly these days. Some time ago, let's say 15 years or so ago, if somebody had asked me what did I think about spirit guides, I would have been quite reticent to discuss things then. I would have been in the process of coming to terms with the big changes that were happening in my life, and I was communicating via dowsing with a spirit guide of sorts. Now, those of you that are regular subscribers to the channel, like Daisy is, will have heard me mention this lady called Jane, who used to live in our house. She was the spirit of a deceased lady, but she had decided to come back to the house for reasons that I'll explain another time. And so I was developing my spirituality by having conversations with her. Now, she was a particular type of guide that I wouldn't call my own personal spirit guide. She was actually there, present in the house as a guardian energy of that house, and in particular of the energy lines that ran through that space. That type of guide we come across quite a lot. Every house has that sort of guide. They may or may not be willing to talk to us. More often than not, they are willing. And the thing that holds the conversation back is actually the doubting, the untrusting nature of the human being asking the questions. Because even though they might get positive response in answer to a question, their mind is too logical. It just says this can't be true, and therefore it blocks the connection. So, spirit is usually very, very keen, very, very happy to talk with us human beings. A clairvoyant giving a stage performance, giving messages to an audience, assuming that they're genuine, then they will very often be working closely with their spirit guide, and it's their spirit guide that gives them the information that allows the spirit of the deceased person, perhaps somebody's father or mother, to come close, that they can get the information and then they can tell the message as required. Usually the spirit guide is a person that is working closely with the human channel. If we think about a great medium such as Esther Hicks, then she has Abraham, the spirit guide. Abraham is an extraordinarily knowledgeable guide and has chosen to be in this life in that manner. And Esther, of course, is a fantastic medium and conveys his messages superbly well. My guide is Merlin. I have constantly referred to him as Merthin, and that is because I didn't want to accept that an enigmatic figure of Merlin would actually even be possible as an incarnate soul or a spirit entity that could communicate with modern day people. So that shows where my head was when I was becoming more familiar with spirit guides. When Merlin came through to me, I refused to accept that he was who he said, and that's fine. A certain amount of cynicism and skepticism from somebody that is opening up to spirit is actually safer than just saying, yes, welcome in, do as you will. That is an approach that one should never ever take. So the more cautious one is, perhaps the safer one is. Because we have to bear in mind that there are energies out there in the realm that is associated with spirit that do like to play tricks on us. And we are very gullible. So we have to be careful of those things. And that's why when we're learning to work with spirit, there are set paths, set ways to learn safely. You'll know if you've found somebody that you feel safe, in the human sense, that you feel safe working with, that you can work with as a teacher. And there are plenty of people out there that are willing to teach you. I do this as part of my mentoring program that I offer to people. I help them improve their connection, gain their confidence. And in the workshops that I run here at home, I do take it, if somebody is ready and willing, and spirit is ready and willing to go as far as trance mediumship, then I will consider taking a person into trance mediumship. And trance is very different from just encountering a spirit guide and having them present and listening to them and hearing them. Trance mediumship is when the spirit actually comes into your body and speaks. Esther Hicks is a trance medium, allowing Abraham to come in and she speaks his words. That sort of thing happens to me these days with my guide Merlin when I'm giving talks at events or running workshops. It varies how forward he is. It's also something that sometimes happens when I'm working one-to-one with clients, especially mentoring clients. It can be quite a shock still. And when he comes through, he's not the most subtle of beings. He tends to talk quite directly and quite bluntly. And that is fine. He is entitled to that. He's never rude. He's never rude. He is simply firm and makes a point, usually because we are not listening, and therefore he has to make his point very clearly to be understood. I'll rephrase that. Usually I'm not listening, and he has to make his point very clearly to be understood. The first spirit guide that we may encounter would usually be a gatekeeper guide. The first spirit entity that we have with us that comes forward is usually the one that keeps us safe, keeps that aspect of us to ourselves, so that we're not inundated by spirit all the time. You'll know if it's appropriate for you to be working with spirit, because it's something that you will probably always have wanted to do in your heart. And your path will inevitably take you right to their door. It's a strange expression, isn't it? Working with spirit and spirit guides. Many, many people will just dismiss it as pure fancy. But if you want to, then you can work with spirit. You don't need to call it by that label. When I started working with my main spirit guide, I was intrigued by the idea of trance mediumship, of allowing that spirit energy to come and talk through me. That's not necessarily the target for everybody. Everybody has a spirit guide. We often have many more than just the one. They will usually just come to us one by one as we develop. In the first instance, the chances are that the first spirit guide that you'll be aware of, perhaps a clairvoyant will introduce them to you, is quite often somebody that you've actually known from when you were little. They're very often related to you. They might be a grandmother or a mother or a father or grandfather, sometimes a great-grandfather. Quite often there's somewhere in the line, the physical line, the energy comes back to help the generation that is growing up and moving on and developing spiritually. For me, my first guide was actually my grandfather on my father's side. Now that was a little bit unusual because he died when my father was 14 years of age, so I had never met him in the physical world. But he was there to help me and to give me confidence and to build my connection and to help me with my dowsing as well. Now, dowsing doesn't always take you instantly into the world of spirit, but it can do if you want it to. I would suggest that you practice your dowsing so that you feel confident with it before you start asking for your spirit guides. Because obviously, as soon as you do that, and if you're not confident, then you may well get a bit of a trickster energy coming through, which you don't really want. It won't harm you at that level, but it'll be annoying and frustrating and can set you back on your path. Ideally, you want to work with a spirit guide in association with a clairvoyant, with a teacher that can help you. And that really is best done face to face in a little group. You can do it. I do sometimes work with people to help them improve their connection, whether that be dowsing or with spirit, with clairaudience or clairsentience. And each individual person is different. Each individual connection to spirit is different. There's no point in comparing yourself to somebody else, or comparing yourself, if you go to a group, to a self-development group, to feel that you are being left behind or you are not as good as some of those that are in the group. Because even if you're not as proficient as bringing through a message now, then you never know where you're going to go, what capabilities you may have in that area in just 1 year's time, for example. So that really is the beginner stage, when spirit first comes to you. And what you'll find is that over the years or months, just depends on your own personal path, that you will get other spirit guides coming to you. And some of them will work with you for specific reasons. If you're a therapist or a healer, then you may have one particular guide that helps you with that work. And you may have one other guide that helps you with communication, for example. Don't expect to have just one guide. It's best to work with one in the first instance, to get to know them really, really well, so that you recognize their feeling. Meditation, of course, is important because that helps establish that connection. The brainwave pattern has to be in a different set of patterns than the day-to-day monkey chatter. Sitting on the earth energy power center in your house will help when you meditate. There is never any cause to rush, to feel that you are running out of time. Your connection to spirit is always progressed at exactly the rate that you wish it to go and they wish it to go. They are never frustrated. They are never disappointed. So there's no reason for us, as developing clairvoyants or developing individuals on our spiritual journeys, to ever feel those emotions either. In the human life, we feel very, very frustrated and short of time. But when working with spirit, time is actually irrelevant. So try to be patient and just enjoy the experience of meditation, of being calm and at peace, and of connecting through your heart with an aspect of reality that actually is pure love. We'll talk some more about spirit again in future Monday moments. Thanks a lot for watching. Take care now. Bye bye.